Hello, Oracles. Well, Tesla stock pops over 7.5% on Jerome Powell coming out and giving some very dovish remarks. So the voice is coming back a little bit. I got a lot of rest today. Thank you all for all your well wishes. So hopefully I will continue to improve from here. So looking at a quick breakdown of what Jerome Powell went over today, Ezer had a great breakdown of it here himself. Jerome Powell didn't expect inflation to rise so fast. We knew about this. Keep interest rate high longer just to be on the safe side. He has already spoken about that as well. Looking to soften future rate hikes. He has also spoken about this. We knew that going into 2023, they were looking to either pause or lower the rate hikes going into 2023. Keep a close watch on the economy, which he has been telling us all along as well, and a soft landing is possible. And so as we watch this progress, we still have Elon coming out saying that the Fed really needs to stop with the rate hikes because they're going to cause a massive recession in 2023. If they don't, seems like the rate hikes are starting to work, but don't forget there is a lag on those rate hikes. So it usually takes about 3 to 6 months for the rate hikes to take effect. So we're starting to see all these rate hikes start to take effect. Sounds like they're pretty solid on their 50 basis point hike for December. So unless we get some other crazy news from the CPI or PPI, there's a good chance we're going to be getting a 50 basis point hike. If for some reason inflation goes back up, we may get a 75 basis point hike. If we see a much lower than expected reading, we may only get a 25 basis point hike. But as we've been talking, looking at a Fed going with a more dovish stance after this FOMC meeting in December, we might see the stock market run. We saw that happen today. Today, we saw obviously Tesla up over 7.5%. The entire market was up big. The NASDAQ was up almost 4.5%. So looking at what was moving the most, we're looking at growth stocks. Growth stocks are the ones who took the biggest beating when all of this happened. That is just what happens when you raise the rates. High PE stocks get compressed. Those are the growth stocks. That's why we saw 80 to 90% losses in many companies when you're looking at the NASDAQ. I look at other stocks like the healthcare stocks. Some of those are going up nicely. Gilead, GILD, is one that I held during COVID because they were having remdesivir. And that one there did not do as well. That one was falling. I ended up selling that one for a loss. Now it is back above where I ended up buying it for previously. And I could have gone positive if I had held it for 2 years. But putting my money into Tesla stock was a much better investment. So with that said, a lot of the money will now end up shifting out of healthcare. I'm not saying it's going to happen now, but when we do get that confirmation that the Fed is going to pivot, that is when we are going to see this turn. This is just a little taste of it. I don't know if this is going to last a long time. I don't know if this is just going to be a fake out of some sort, but the market definitely cheered this dovish stance out of Jerome Powell today. So if we continue that sentiment going forward, we could very well see the market start to turn around a little bit. But don't forget, we still have a lot of the balance sheet that we need to run off. They still have not finished raising interest rates. We still have inflation that is still extremely high. So this is a good sign. However, we still need to be patient. And we've got two great pieces of information from Openskies over on Twitter. The S&P 500 closed above its previous month's high for the first time in 2022. Obviously, we waited all the way until almost December, but this is a good sign. Other information that she gave us today was U.S. job openings fell to 10.33 million in October from peak of 10.69 million, now down 13% from their peak. Rate hikes look like they are starting to bite on the labor market. Equities lower on the release sets up an interesting dynamic for payrolls on Friday. So one of the other things that the Fed is paying attention to is the hot jobs market. When we have so many job openings out there, you almost have to kind of force a recession in order to bring that down. But it seems like we are moving in the right direction there as well. So as Jerome Powell said, a soft landing being possible means that we would get to a point where inflation comes back down to that 2% without having to cause a recession. We can argue the fact that we did have 2 negative quarters in a row of GDP, meaning that we were in a technical recession. But are we going to go into a deeper recession, or are we actually going to get this soft landing? You guys can let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And going back to the compression that we see when it comes to the growth stocks, this is why these are the times to buy those growth stocks. Sure, they're beat down. Sure, they may fall down further. But when you're looking at dollar cost averaging at the whole sector that has been compressed the most, that would be the area you would want to buy. It's almost like cyclical. You cycle out of one area, you cycle back into it later. Right now, everyone has cycled out of the high growth stocks. Eventually, those will be the ones that everybody cycles back into. So where would you want to buy? When everyone else is buying or when nobody is buying. And then when you're trying to decide which growth stocks to get into, you take a look at, well, which ones are going to be doing the best? What is the atmosphere in the entire world going to be looking like as we come out of this? Who is going to thrive the most? Well, clearly, we are going into an EV revolution that is already taking over, that is going to continue to grow over the next decade plus. We are going into renewable energy. We are also looking to get into AI in the future. So, you let me know in the comments below what company you think would stand to do the best out of all the companies that are out there with those things in mind. And now, speaking of the future, we've got an interview with Franz von Holzhausen discussing what his favorite designs are in any of the vehicles that they have.
I'm curious if you have a favorite design, favorite feature, something that you're most proud of.
Favorite one is the one that's coming. I think that it can talk about.
And so now let's speculate on what we think that Franz was discussing. Of course, we have the Cybertruck right behind him. That has not been released yet. So perhaps it's something in there that he can't talk about. Maybe it's the Robotaxi because they have only announced it. We don't know any details on that really. Perhaps that's it. Or maybe, which is my personal favorite, is going to be the Cybervan. Maybe that is his favorite. Coming from the guy who was the chief designer, something tells me that something that's going to be as customizable as the Cybervan might actually be his favorite thing because there's so much versatility with the design in that. But you guys can let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what vehicle you think it is and what design you think it is. Now, in another update when it comes to production, we had just reported yesterday that Giga Berlin was going to be starting their third shift in mid-December. That now has been updated to the second week of January, according to Drive Tesla. After a meeting between Elon Musk and the Giga Berlin team, the third shift will now start in the second week of January. And so while this is kind of, a little upsetting, I was hoping they were going to start it in December. It's only a month. In the grand scheme of things, it really is not going to matter. So as far as I am concerned, not a big deal. When we look back at these moments in 5 years from now, we're not even going to remember this. Oh, they only started the third shift in January and not December. We're not going to remember that. And some news that Sawyer Merritt tweeted out about Ford, saying that Ford announced Wednesday that the company has produced its 150,000th Mustang Mach-E since starting production nearly 2 years ago. As the company scales EV production, almost all of the Mustang Mach-E's growth to date is coming from customers replacing ICE vehicles. And now this is something we were just talking about recently, about how Toyota and Honda are actually losing market share and customers to Tesla, whereas Ford is actually losing customers to themselves. They're losing ICE customers, switching over to EV customers. It's a good thing that they're not losing the customers, but they're just cannibalizing themselves. And this is something we have talked about many times before, that legacy auto is going to be cannibalizing themselves just to be able to stay alive as this EV revolution takes over. And so just jumping into the charts really quick, seeing this nice green candlestick moving up today. Again, this is something we were talking about the other day, which is we're kind of consolidating sideways. I would like to see us go up versus coming down. We're kind of at that threshold right here where if we fall, we may end up falling further down to like that 140 level versus if we go up, we might end up running up to that 225 level. So today we even closed above this 191 level of resistance that we had. That was great. We had a strong push into close, and this was nice to see us close over this. The next stop for us when it comes to resistance is going to be $200. That is a psychological resistance. We've bounced off of that several times. And then above that is going to be 207. And we saw some big volume coming in today at 108 million shares trading hands. And the RSI has now pushed up to almost 50. So we're right in the middle again. Still can go in either direction. Still want to take this day to day. But today was a great sign that we had seen about the Fed pivoting. So if for some reason we do end up falling down from here, keep this moment in mind, how the market is going to react when the Fed actually does pivot. All of the companies that you saw running today the most are the ones that are going to run the most when the Fed does officially make that pivot. And so tomorrow we're going to be having our semi-delivery event going on. I still do not know what time it is. If you guys know what time it's going to be held at, please let me know. I do have a banquet for my son tomorrow evening. So if for some reason it's held during that time, I will not be able to be on here, but I'll cover it for you guys in the morning on Friday. However, if it is sometime during the day where I will be available, I will have a live stream so we can watch it together. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate all of your support and feedback. If you have not subscribed, please do so down below. Sign yourself up for notifications. I am over on Twitter at OracleTim1. I share all the latest Tesla news, pertinent stock market information, and all of my daily trades. We do have a Discord chat. That link is down in the description. And if you'd like to support the channel any further, we do have a Patreon and a membership program. Those links are also in the description. Thank you so much. Have a great one.